guys are here tonight. It's our final youth worship service of the year. You guys see a lot that's happened this past year. It's been a great year, this school year. Tonight's the final worship service. Next week we take off because of the exams. I know all you guys will be way too busy studying to come up here next Wednesday night. So next week we don't meet. Then the next week is summer. Junior high H2O will start. Senior high H2O starts a week or two after that. Senior high will be on Monday night. Senior high on Wednesday night. It's been a great year. I've seen a lot of growth in you guys. I've gone through a lot of different Bible studies. And go back to, I think, trigger some memory. Started off the year with a study called Beyond the Yearbook. We talked about life isn't just about being popular at school. It's about your relationship with Christ. It's more than just being a face of the yearbook. Then we went and did a study called Simplify Your Life, and we said we're just way too busy. This is not anything wrong with doing stuff, but there is something wrong with doing so much stuff that we have no time for our relationship with God. Then we said we don't want to we just don't want to believe in God. We just don't want to be people who come to church. We want to be people who do stuff for other people. We want to be people who serve. So to do that, we need a heart of a champion. Then we finished up the fall semester with probably the best Bible study we did all year, especially for you high schoolers. It was called Hooked. We talked about the sins, gets this hook in us, whatever sin it is that you battle, and it's tough to take it out. So what are some ways to do that? And that's what we did during the Bible study at the beginning of this spring semester, right after Disciple Now, when we split up into junior high and senior high. We did a study called Black and White. We looked at the three most important issues in the Bible. That is that we love God, we love people, and then to realize that Jesus is the only way we can be saved. It's the only way we can know God and spend eternity in heaven. And then we did a study called God's Extreme Makeover. Remember, we had the whole medical unit set, we had the table, the operating table, and all that stuff going on back here behind me. And we said it's not important what we look like on the outside, getting a facelift or whatever else. That's not a big deal. It is a big deal when God makes over our heart. And then we did Fresh Starts, just a quick 2-week deal. The first week was about how we accept forgiveness from God. The second week was about how we offer forgiveness for other people. And then we finished the study, finished the year with 4 weeks of Untouchables, talking about things you're not supposed to talk about in church. It's been an incredible year. We've learned a lot. I was out in my yard the other day and been thinking the last couple of weeks about what we were going to talk about tonight, the final Bible study of the year. Big night, last one of the year. What are we going to talk about? And I looked over my flower bed, and I saw that picture. And then I saw that picture. And God just spoke to me through His creation, and He said, Neil, that's what you look like right before you take a big step of faith. That's what the youth ministry looks like, or the church looks like right before you're ready to do it. Right before. And we've seen some of you guys that started off this school year really bad with some things. Some of you girls, it was gossip. Some of you high schoolers, it might have been alcohol or whatever, or just giving in the same old, really not being a Christian. Just show up at church, but you're not a Christian on your campus, and you've bloomed into something different here. But there's a lot of us, and even the ones that have made steps this year, we're on the verge of doing something great. And there's a lot of you, particularly junior high, that you believe you're a Christian, but you've never made the step of faith to say, you know what, Jesus is more important than anything else. Jesus is important enough that I'm going to live different. I was talking with another youth minister today at lunch, and we said that our love for God, our relationship with God, should show up in the type of friendships that we have at school. It's got to really love God. It's going to change the way we relate to other people. I think one of the biggest steps, the next step for a lot of you, especially junior high girls, is that you become vocal about your faith. That doesn't mean you beat people down and yell at people like some crazy nutty preacher. That's not what that is. But it does mean that you speak up about your faith. It does mean that you speak to somebody new when they walk into this room. That you become vocal in your faith. So we go from that to this incredible blooming point. And God says, you know what? They've made the step of faith. They've branched out. They've taken Jesus seriously, and they've become this incredible image of God on their school campus. Look at one verse tonight, and this is it. I'm not going to talk long. The band's going to come up in just a few minutes. Read this passage. It says, don't copy the behavior and customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good, pleasing, and perfect. says God has a will for you, has a plan for your life that's pleasing and perfect. But to get that, to understand, to get a hold of God's will for you, is not, you can't just come to church, you can't just show up on Wednesday nights, you can't wear a Christian t-shirt and that happen. It says you have to stop being like this world. Stop just blending in with the rest of the world. It says you have to be totally changed. And it starts with your mind. It says don't be conformed to this world, the customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person. Just as God takes that flower and transforms it into the seed, into what one day blooms into this beautiful flower. The same thing takes place in our life, whether we take seriously what God has for us. Something that never would have thought as a kid I would enjoy doing back when my dad made me, do the yard work and all that type of stuff. But something I enjoy now as an adult is doing yard work. I'm not crazy about, just mowing for the heck of it, but I like, our yard looking nice. Man, and I take pride in it. And I don't know everything about yard stuff, and I don't know a whole lot. But there's a couple things I do know. Number one is there are times in life when you need pruning shears. Whether it's just getting weeds out of the other flower bed, whether it's a plant, whether it's one of our crepe myrtles that's really put off a lot of growth, but we need to trim it back so it grows more in the future. But there's times when you have to cut back. It's a painful process in order for the plant to grow and become what it needs to look like. But there's also another thing in it that allows flowers and flower bed to grow. And that's miracle growth. That's what makes me look so, I don't have to have a clue what I'm doing. I can just plug this stuff, empty it into a little bucket, hook it up with my water hose, spray the flower bed, and boom. All of a sudden it looks a lot better. I know there's some times in life that we need to add miracle growth to our hearts this morning. There's some times that we need to prune things away from our hearts. That's what it says, the verse says right there, don't be conformed. Don't fall into the customs of this world. Don't be like every other junior high or high school student in your school. But be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Let God reshape how you think. And say, you know what? Jesus is going to be more important than anything else. It's going to change the way I play baseball, soccer, the way I eat. The way I respond to people. The way when somebody walks new into my Sunday school classes, it changes the way I respond to them. I've got to be vocal about my faith. There's also the pruning shears we need to take to our hearts sometimes. And say, God, not everything in me is good. There's some sins in my life that I need to eliminate. It's going to be painful. And some of you can testify to that this year. Say, hey, you know what? I made some stands, I made some growth, and it was painful. But you know what? I'm just not that flower with the potential to bloom. I am that flower that's blooming. I am the person who made a difference.